Welcome in one and all to the Fantasy Football Universe. I'm your host, Jeremy Shulman. This is Jesse Moeller. We are here, the FFU times two, the double FU, the Fantasy Football Universe. Hashtag Kyler. Don't worry. I don't know. Should we, shouldn't we? We'll see. This is my co-host, Jesse. Adams is a wide receiver one in New York. I hate that hashtag because it's correct. Jesse, other than my Garrett Wilson bags being assaulted by your hashtag, what else is going on in your world today?
Oh, just chasing my naked daughter around the house, trying to get her put on some clothes. The fun life of parenting. For those of you that are expecting parents to be a breeze, newsflash, it is not. It is a lot of fun. I love my daughter, but it's chaos on a Saturday when you're home alone with your daughter and she's running around like, this is a game. I'm like, bro, I got stuff I got to do. Put some pants on. She's like, no. So we're going through that. But other than that, the funly ranting of parenting. I'm getting ready for the week. Getting a little depressed about my David Njoku bags. Speaking of that, because if he does not play, he has the juiciest playoff matchup of anybody these next 3 weeks. And he's like, guess what? I'm hurt. And I'm like, bro, just be healthy. Please be healthy so we can make this happen. But other than that, I'm feeling fine. I'm looking forward to these games tomorrow. It's going to be a fun Sunday, and we're finally here, right? It's playoff time. So let's get down and dirty to it, and let's try to help people win those championships.
That's it, man. I feel that today on the roundtable, we're going to talk a little bit about guys with some juicy and not so juicy playoff matchups, give you a little insight into who we expect to perform above season-long expectation, perhaps, and below season-long expectation. We'll talk about that at position. And then, of course, we are here to answer all of your fantasy questions, start, sit, lineup, trade discussions, if that's still available to you in your dynasty league. So please feel free to drop into the chat, ask a question, pose a topic to us, and we'll just kind of go through our normal stuff, and always happy to interact with all of you. So with all of that said, let's get into this strength of schedule. This is per Fantasy Pros. It is the easiest remaining strength of schedule, Jesse. And because I'm not touching Will Levis with a 10-foot pole, instead, we'll talk about this guy, Kyler Murray. What are your thoughts on Kyler Murray going into the playoffs just in general before I give you his apparently juiciest schedule in the NFL?
Well, it's ideal. And basically everyone on their team has like a really juicy matchup moving forward to the running backs, wide receivers as well. So if Kyler eats, the whole offense is going to eat. The problem with Kyler is he's been so up and down, and the offense just has not been like safe. It's just been all over the place. It's been a roller coaster. You've seen some blow-up games for him where he's gone nuclear, and you've seen a couple other games like against the Seahawks a couple weeks ago. He was a disaster. Like he got their double-digit points, but it was not good. And that's kind of the issue with this offense is just the floor is so low at times. They're really like more weight is on the defense, and that kind of creates an issue. So I love Kyler, but like, man, we need you these 3 weeks, buddy. Like get it together. Everything's setting up for a smash playoffs for you, but I don't know if that's going to happen. So I'm a little bit worried, even though the matchups are so nice for him these upcoming days. Yeah.
Those beautiful matchups are New England this week in your fantasy quarterfinals, in your semis in week 16 at Carolina. They've been slightly better, but they're still New England level of defense. And then in week 17 at the Los Angeles Rams, who hemorrhage points. Kyler, two questions for you about Kyler Murray, Jesse. Question number one, how many times this year has Kyler Murray been a QB1 on the week? What would you guess?
I'd say about 4 times. I think it's about 4.
I think that's close. I just got breaking news, Trayvon Diggs, Dallas corner out for the season-ending IR.
Tigers
continue to fire up everyone against Dallas. We'll talk about that shortly. But you guessed 4 times. It's actually 5 times with last week because he was the QB 10 overall standard quarterback 4-point scoring. But he has the opportunity to make it 7. The last time that Kyler was the QB1 on the week, it did happen once this year. It did happen against those Los Angeles Rams. It's very possible Kyler has a very, very nice run out here. Problem is, like you said, we just haven't really seen it, even though the volume's been there since the bye in week 11.
Yeah, like he's quarterback 12 on a points per game basis. And if it's like If you told me before the season he was going to be quarterback 12 on a points per game basis, I'm like, ooh, that's not what we're looking for, right? Because we drafted him in top 8 with the expectation he could take the jump and really be that guy, because we were counting on the rushing and like years past, basically 2 years removed from the ACL injury and all that fun stuff. Like him kind of getting back to that rushing floor he has where he was a top 3 quarterback, top 5 quarterback in previous years. We're just not seeing that. So I don't know if it's the offensive coordinator, the issues they're having overall. Like he's not connecting with Harrison. It's really just him and oh my gosh, why am I breaking on his name? Trey McBride. Like that's the real connection that they have. And then obviously James Conner. But like the offense seems like it's just missing a couple things where it's just a little bit short of what we want it to be.
Yep, totally agree with you. And Jeffrey, we see your question. We'll get to you in just a minute. We're just going to talk about one more quarterback before we jump into running backs. And that quarterback is Kirk Cousins. Holy crap, Jesse. He's had a bye in there, but 5 weeks in a row now, Kirk Cousins has not thrown a touchdown pass. That's 4 NFL games with no touchdown pass for Kirk Cousins. How the heck can we trust this guy? Quarterback 20 on the season, but how can we trust him even against Vegas this week, the Giants, and then Washington to round out the season? It's a great schedule.
I mean, you can't ask for a better schedule, right? So this is the thing where I'm struggling with what we're watching on the field. And you look at everything going into this game and you're like, this should be a Kirk Cousins like smash matchup like the Kirk Cousins we had in the previous years when he was with Washington towards the end and with the Vikings, right? Where you get these juicy matchups. Kirk Cousins would feast. He'd give you 3 or 4 touchdowns, push over 300 yards, that's it. We're just not seeing that right now. Now, he's still supporting the weapons. Like the wide receivers are still getting there. The running backs are getting there because Bijan's really good on the ground. But it's just not hitting the same ceiling, right? And this is kind of similar to Kyler. But the whole issue with Cousins is the pressure and issues. Like he's a statue back there. He can't move. So he really just is like a sit there, and he has to get rid of the ball because he can't take the hit. He can't move. So that's been the thing that's really held this offense back. I mean, they're right there in playoff contention for that, that NFC South championship. So they still could get it. But yeah, these 3 games, you should be firing him up. And I'm struggling to put him in my starting lineup. Even in Superflex leagues, I'm having difficulty with that where I'm debating him between Aaron Rodgers, Smith. And I'm like, I look at the matchup and I'm like, everything tells me to play Kirk Cousins, except how he's actually playing the last month. It's been abysmal.
It's been wild. Weeks 1 through 9, Kirk Cousins threw 17 touchdown passes to just 7 interceptions. Since week 10, that's weeks 10, 11, by week 12, 13, 14, no touchdowns. That's 8 interceptions for Kirk Cousins. Absolutely tanking everyone's value on that team, but including his own and his fantasy managers team. You cannot have started Kirk Cousins over the last 2 weeks in like not great matchups against the Chargers in Minnesota. I know it's tempting. I know we have quarterback concerns. I know maybe you were relying on hopefully not Aiden O'Connell and Desmond Ritter's in there, or maybe you were relying on some of these guys with scary matchups like Russ this week, for example. Maybe you had him and you're like, who else is on the wire? Who am I going to grab? Ooh, Kirk Cousins, juicy matchup. I can't do it. I got to play Russ over Kirk. How about you?
Yeah, I don't. If I'm in this range, I think Russ is fine. Like you could go with the Russ, but if we're talking about like in that Will Levis, Cooper Rush, I really like Jameis this week because the Kansas City defense has kind of fallen off. It's the same defense you can do him. But like if you're debating Cousins and Stroud, I think that's a fair discussion to have between 2 of the more disappointing quarterbacks for fantasy this year, where Stroud just has not been the same. He's regressed a little bit, and Cousins is dealing with the issues of the ACL, the Achilles injury. So yeah, like there's going to be a team I will probably play him on just because I don't want to completely not play Cousins because the matchups are so good, right? And when you have this many teams, you kind of want to diversify a little bit if you have similar bets. But like on the flip side, with like Aaron Rodgers, like I have a hard time trusting him, even if it's a really, really good matchup against Jacksonville, right? It's kind of the same discussion between Cousins and Rodgers, and I just don't want to play either one of them if I have a choice, right? So that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yep, totally agree with you. To your point, Rodgers' schedule, Jacksonville, the aforementioned Los Angeles Rams in Week 16, and the Buffalo Bills, who we know they're just dealing with a slew of injuries. And we saw what they gave up to the Rams last week. So the Jets are capable of doing Rams things if they're on, for sure. We're going to move to talk about running backs, but before we do, we're going to talk about running backs. Jeffrey, thanks for hanging in there. Here is his question. How do you guys feel about Breece Hall if he does end up playing? I get it. I understand the feeling, but it's Jacksonville. I'm firing up Breece Hall. Am I super confident? Not necessarily. You got to play him though, right?
Yeah, he's got basically the best stretch from any running back in the fantasy playoffs. If you look at it from a rushing and receiving perspective, there's nobody that's better. Like Breece Hall is top 3 in both rushing and like receiving for fantasy points allowed. The defenses are going up the next 3 weeks. So if he's healthy, you have to play Breece Hall, because if he's healthy, and he did get the limited practices in, so you're going to wait and see tomorrow, but they're telling us like, hey, we don't need to play Breece Hall. Our season's lost, right? So there's no point throwing him out there unless he's healthy. This is kind of gets in the same thing with Garendo. It's like, if you want to take on the risk and roll with it, go with it. If it's Breece is out, I still like those running backs, but it's more likely going to be a split slaughter. If we get a running back pushing 60, 70% of the touches, Breece Hall could be legit like top 3 running back the next 3 weeks and really just be a force for you. It's just, we got the unfortunate injury issues, which sucks for guys like him, Njoku, a couple of these other guys with ideal juicy matchups the next 3 weeks. So, yeah. And also, like, Tony Pollard, the rushing, like, we don't even have to talk to you about Tony Pollard, how much you like him. But, yeah, it's the same thing for Pollard, man. Like, the rushing – Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Jacksonville. There's no better 3-window stretch against rushing than what Tony Pollard plays against. So, yeah, if he gets injured, I'm totally fine rolling with Tajay Spears, because I expect him to get the majority of the work. And he's also a really good receiver. So, like, he has that in his bag, too. So, I would like both of these guys if that plays out that way. What about you, Jeremy?
Yep, I agree with you. So I'm definitely playing Breece Hall if he is playing, and I'm not playing those other guys. I get it. They could split the work. They don't necessarily need Breece, but all of these guys are young. Breece has at least another year, if not 2, on his contract, if I'm not mistaken. So, and those 2 other guys are rookies, right? So there's no issue here with the Jets planning for the future. Their future is set. Right. And they can figure out where to slot these guys. It's going to be Breece, but where to slot in Allen and Davis and how they work in the offense later. They don't need to do that in the lost season. So if you want to win the game, you play Breece Hall, and all indications are they want to win the game. So, I'm going Breece with Pollard. Look, he hasn't practiced all week. The discussion is he's likely to play. Take that for a grain of salt. And for whatever that's worth at this point on Saturday, you're just going to have to pay attention. If Pollard plays, he's a smash must start. He's one of these guys to talk about with the best schedule. We've been talking about this for months. Cincy, Indy, Jacksonville. You cannot get better than that at the running back position. Now, the question here, though, is key. If Pollard sits, do you start Spears? My concern is Spears only has 1 game this season with 15 rushing attempts. He only put in 2.6 yards per carry in that game. It was against Miami. Otherwise, his season high in carries is 7. So half of that, I get it. Pollard's out. They need to try and move the football. I'm not sure Spears is the guy to do that. And they might look to employ some of their lesser backs to do that while they keep Spears in his receiving role. The problem is that receiving role really hasn't been there for him. Just 8 targets in the last 4 games that he's played. And, I know he's been injured here and there for sure. So it's been a rough season for Tajay. I don't know if he's a must start. I'm assuming he's a 1A. Must start is a little strong for me. I'd consider flexing him for sure. What do you think, Jesse? Is he a must-start? Tajay Pollard is out.
Yeah, because you look at who else is on that roster. It's Joshua Kelly and Julius Chestnut and UDFA. It's like this is similar to the Zach Charbonnet thing. When the talent drop off is that significant, or the team doesn't trust them, but I will play him. So if Pollard's out, but we expect him to play, so I'm not too saying he's out. But if Pollard's out, what that does is that removes really any of the issue, and you're going to see Spears get a decent workload. He's never seen above 50% of snaps this entire year. Spears hasn't, because he's dealt with injuries. It's been Tony Pollard's been the better back. So I think he could give you like 60% of the touches and snaps. And if you get that with these juicy matchups, like he'll more than likely get the goal line work. He'll get receiving down work. He'll get a lot of maybe you get a little bit of the early down, then the non-impactful touches to like Chestnut or Joshua Kelly, let them work some of that work. And then Spears gets all like the high value touches. And I'm completely fine with that. So yeah, if an injury happens, similar to like we're talking about Sincere McCormack, which is the next question. Similar to that, like McCormack has a good run out, and he's the guy that's kind of taking control of the backfield. I could see a similar thing going for Spears, where it's like, hey, there's no one else really here that we like. Let's see what we have in this young, talented second-year player who was really dynamic last year. And if he's fully recovered, like he could be the best back down the stretch. So you just kind of have to wait and see with it. I know the Titans are also in the lost season, so they don't need to force Spears or Pollard to play, right? If he's healthy, you play him. If he's out, then I would roll out Spears. But yeah, it's just a little bit riskier, right? Because we haven't seen it from this season.
Yeah, and my issue too is Tony Pollard is a professional running back. We saw what he did, what he can do in Dallas behind a great offensive line, or very good, at least still at that point, when he got that full season RB3 or RB4 on the season. But Tajay Spears is not Tony Pollard, certainly at least not yet. He's a bit slighter of frame for sure. And he only has 3.7 yards per carry on 50 attempts, which isn't negligible, right? So he's down almost a full yard per carry from last season. I blame that on the Titans' offensive line. So that's kind of my concern with a lesser between the tackles guy like Tajay. And he only has 20 targets on the season. Yes, he's been hurt, but I don't know what to do with this guy. The talent still appears to be there, but we haven't really seen it this season. So that's really my concern. But let's talk about McCormick real quick. McCormick is one of these guys that I was going to bring up. So let's roll into it. And do you have McCormick's schedule up? If not, I'll bring it up.
Yes, I do. Give me 1 second. I'll pull up. All right. So he gets the next 3 weeks, he gets Atlanta, Jacksonville, and New Orleans. And from a rushing perspective, that's pretty good matchup. It's top 12-ish. Receiving perspective, it's not bad either. It's like middle of the road as well. So he's like I'd say a matchup base. He's like top 12 on both sides of it in that range. So good matchups. The way I look at it is it's opportunity and it's talent coming together for him. He's clearly the best back on that roster because he does things that no one else is capable of doing. And he's getting the opportunity. And we've heard the coach come out, and I know Antonio Pierce is pretty trustworthy when he says stuff. If you follow Coach Speak Index, if you don't, you should. It's really good data that he has over there. He said he's like an 80% like trustworthy data source. So if he says he's going to give him the run out, I'm going to follow through on that because this is a pretty solid matchup for McCormick. And he could push 15, maybe 20 touches if they're winning in this game. And you know what? If you have that, falls in the end zone, that's how you get an RB1. I think he's more likely a mid-range RB2, but if you need someone to play, you could definitely flex him for sure. So I have McCormick at a few spots because he was just dirt cheap and free and available. Picked him up. And yeah, I'm firing him up on a few teams. I'm excited to see what he has this week.
Yep, I totally agree. I think the one concern is Desmond Ridder here. I'm not sure what to expect. I mean, last week was weird with Ridder having to come in with the O'Connell injury. The week before, and that was against Tampa, but the week before they had KC, who we know can kind of take down mediocre offenses on defense, at least right now. But Sincere McCormick, the last 2 weeks, 14 and 18 touches, and he has not finished above RB 25 and half PPR. So that's my concern. The touches are there. The yards per carry are there. He's even getting some targets out of the backfield. He's just not converting. This offense is not good. And so that's really my concern. He has yet to score a touchdown. He's capable of it. He should be able to do it. The matchups are nice. I'm just a little bit wary, but I like him. You're firing him up as an RB2.
Yeah, I think the matchups are all games that they could be competitive in, and that's the biggest thing. You're not going against these like really juggernaut teams. You're playing Atlanta, New Orleans, and you're playing like some really bad Jacksonville. All three teams, like Atlanta's probably the best, but like the later two specifically, like those teams are struggling at quarterback. Like the issues are all there, so you can see them be competitive through the fourth quarter in these games. If that's the case, it's going to be close. He's going to get touches. If it gets out of hand, I would be worried if they're playing like the Ravens or someone of that nature. Like you can see get out of hand, but based on these matchups, yeah, like I think he can give you decent production. But yeah, we're not talking high end like RB1 numbers. We're talking like a solid RB2, like in that range of players. So yeah, I'm with you.
And I think what Jeffrey might be asking here is, are you playing McCormick over Hawkinson or Andrews? I have Andrews significantly lower, but still a tight end one against the Giants, who've been giving it up, who haven't been giving it up, but are injured on the back end now with rookie safety Tyler Newman out for the season. Are you playing McCormick over either of these guys? Let's pretend it's a small premium.
Yeah, it depends on the premium. If it's like 2 points per reception, then that's a different story. But if it's like a standard no premium, then yeah, I'm gonna fire McCormick because I'm gonna follow through on the touches. And like as much as we like Andrews, like he hasn't been a masterful target hog, so it gets into this weird space where if you're flexing a tight end, it's not like McBride, right? Because McBride's getting a ton of touches each and every week. With Andrews, it's a different story. So Andrews is lower in my rankings. It's decently close because Andrews is, a solid play this week, but I'm gonna chase the floor with McCormick and go with that.
Yeah. I think in this one, I tend to agree. I am scared to sit Andrews over McCormick, but I am still going to do it. But I think Andrews should have a good game. That Giants team is just done at this point. Gabriel says, hey guys, start a cup this week. Sucks, man. We've been talking about it the last couple of days. We feel your pain, but still projected to win is great.
That's nice.
CD or Mike Evans? I'm pretty sure I have Evans higher. Jesse, what do you got?
So this one is with you projected higher. Like CD's going against Carolina. Like I
have CD higher.
Yeah, like I have a hard time fading CD. Like he's gonna get peppered with targets. Evans, he's not like he doesn't always get peppered with targets from Mike Evans. That's kind of the thing. Yeah. He's never been like a super big target hog. He's been consistent. Like that's there, and he has the boom week, and he could really do that. So I would say if you needed that ceiling shot, I would choose Evans. But since you're projected to win, I would play CeeDee Lamb because the floor is insanely high with him. He's going to get double-digit targets in this game once again. He's done that the last 3 weeks. So for me in this situation, I'll take Lamb. And I just think it's just a lot safer bet with Lamb because like Evans is going up against the Chargers. That's a tougher matchup too. Like they got good outside quarters, and that's the problem with that scheme in particular. Like I don't think we get that big boom game from Mike Evans like we were expecting last week, right? So for me, I'm going with Mr. CeeDee Lamb.
Yep, totally agree with you. And that was going to be my point. They did give up 34 points and 30 points back-to-back weeks against Cincinnati and Baltimore, this Los Angeles Chargers defense. But other than that, over the last since they're buying week 5, here are the total team points they gave up. They gave up 16, 17, 8, 10, 17. We're skipping Cincy and Baltimore, 13 and 19 points. So other than the elite offenses, they've been dominant. And certainly we are not calling Tampa an elite offense, although they have been pretty good. But, is Bucky playing? Is he 100%?
Right.
Is Mike Evans 100%? With Godwin out, certainly this offense has taken a knock over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and I would also want to put Evans in my flex if I'm debating these two guys at wide receiver, right? Like I think you could easily flex Mike Evans. So unless you are stacked at running back, like I think you just put Evans into your flex, or unless you're just a stacked team and this is your flex decision, then congrats to you. Like that's a whole other different discussion. Yeah. But yeah, I would just flex whoever you don't want to start in this one. I would just flex the other guy.
Yeah, because I have CD wide receiver 7 on the week, but Mike Evans wide receiver 8 on the week, and both over my baby Cortland Sutton at wide receiver 9, who's going to smash. So look, I really, really think. Totally agree with you, Jesse. You got to play both these guys if you can. But yeah, that's the favor only close. He's flexing the studs. So Gabriel, we hear you. Yeah. Oh, this is a good one. Jesse, Mike Evans or Brock Bowers this week in the flex?
That one's tough. Yeah, like if it's a premium, I think it's a different story, right? Because with Bowers in particular, like McBride, these guys are getting just masterful looks, right? So yeah, it's tough. Like I have a hard time benching like Evans. The way I would do it is I would definitely I think McBride's just the safer guy, just with that offense, just better, right? He doesn't get the touchdowns though, so it kind of sucks with it. And then if you have the tight end premium, I would flex him. I actually don't mind playing Evans over Bowers, but it's kind of similar discussion because the Bowers offense sucks and it's not a good offense, right? So sometimes you see him kind of get featured out of the game, which is my one little bit of concern with him. So I think it's a similar discussion between him and Evans and just what you want to go with. But I mean, Bowers is an incredible player. It's really hard to fade him. So I would say McBride, Evans, Bowers is how I have it. But you could go Bowers if you really like him and like the matchup. Just fire him up. It's fun. There's really good options for your flex spot, I will say.
Agree. I totally agree. I also would go Evans over Bowers in this one, but it's so close. So go with your gut on that one. Good to know that it's going to be hard for you to be wrong this week. Problem with Bowers for me, Desmond Ridder. That's the issue.
Yep.
So
that's the issue.
We'll see. Before we get to a few of these other questions, I just want to talk about a running back with one of the worst schedules imaginable, and yet you've been playing him, firing him up every single week. Jesse, did you have a guess?
Is it Joe Mixon? Because that schedule for
well, we'll talk about that but first we got to talk about Najee Harris. Najee Harris at Philly, at Baltimore, Kansas City to wrap it up. I know he's been getting there on volume, but since week 7,
it's rough.
Najee has only been an RB1 once. We don't necessarily expect him to be RB1, but listen to this: RB 16, 16, 18, 17, 33, and 22. Now he faces the gauntlet. Can we sit Najee in the fantasy playoffs if he got us there?
Yeah, the one thing that they have matchups, the receiving aspect's not terrible for them. The problem is his backfield's just his backfield running mate is Warren, just a better receiver, right? So Warren kind of gobbles up a good amount of that receiving work where Najee doesn't get it all. So yeah, like I think you can definitely sit Najee. Like if you don't have good options, if you're debating like DeAndre Swift, sure, you could play Najee, like just because Swift's matchup was awful this week. But yeah, I don't want to play Najee, and I don't want to be dependent on. If you're in the playoffs, you more than likely have a better option, I will say, at running back than Najee Harris this week. Even though Najee Harris has been really good, I think it's a fuller play because he's going to get work. Like that's just, I don't think he's seen less than like 15 touchdowns in a game forever. But yeah, like he needs a touchdown in this game, and that's going to be really difficult for him. So I'm definitely worried about Najee. Do not want to play him if I can avoid it.
Agree. It's also going to be really hard throughout the playoffs if you manage to get through with Najee, but he is a super floor play at this point. And then we'll take these questions right after this one. You brought up the name, Jesse, Joe Mixon, Miami. That Miami front can be daunting at times. I think Mixon gets home this week against them, but then at Kansas City and then Baltimore in the fantasy championship, Mixon carried you there with a RB1 performance. He's the RB9 on the season after missing 3 games in half PPR. So ridiculous stuff from Joe Mixon, especially since he's been back from injury. Miami, Kansas City, Baltimore. What are you doing with Joe Mixon? You just play and pray, right?
Yeah, like with Mixon, the volume is better. Like he doesn't have competition. Like he's not going to see a ton of targets, and like you kind of want him to see that in this matchup because like these fronts are really tough. Like Miami's defense has been really stout throughout the season, and it's going to be tough. KC's defense is starting to show a little bit weird, but it's more through the receiving aspect than it is on the ground. And we know Baltimore, like that front is nasty. So, yeah, like you can see these games like we played against Detroit where he's 25 to like 50. If he puts that up, you're going to need him to get a touchdown, right? Like that's entirely in his range of outcomes in these games. Now, I don't think he's going to get 50. I think he could maybe get you 65, 70 rushing yards, but I have a hard time getting him above that. So it's just a lower floor for Mixon. But it's unlike Najee Harris. You more than likely don't have better options. So you probably have to play him, unfortunately, and you just hope for the best. Ideally, he gets in the end zone because he's been a touchdown magnet this season. He gets there, and then, you know what? You could be okay. And you're like, all right, I got double-digit points. We're good. Hopefully my other guys do this for you. But this is why matchups are important in playoffs because they can make or break your team because a lot of these guys are so close in projections and stuff. You just have to go matchups for where your gut goes. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you have to go for it.
For real. Yeah, and thankfully for Mixon, he's not in Najee's situation because without George Pickens on that offense, they are in trouble with a capital yuck. I mean, it's going to be rough for them to move the football. They need to rely on both of those backs in Pittsburgh. So hopefully Najee can get there on volume. For Mixon, at least you got Nico. Apparently you have Tank Dell. I don't know. He's been missing.
Ghost of Tank Dell. He's been a disaster.
Yeah, but at least they can move the ball enough. And Mixon has been so good. So I agree with you there. You are firing these guys up, but especially Mixon. Najee, if you have better options, you can sit them. Let's roll through a bunch of these questions. Thank you all for your patience. I believe Sauce God is next. Cannot figure out which receiver to flex. Nico and Amon-Ra, you got to play those guys. Higgins, Judy, which Wilson? Garrett Wilson, I'm assuming. Jacoby Myers and Zay Flowers. I love it because I hate it. I have a team like this where I'm probably sitting Zay Flowers this week. I think with this group, you're probably sitting Zay Flowers too. Let's see. One receiver. You're picking one of these guys, Jesse. Who are you playing?
It's probably Judy. Now, particularly because Tillman is out, this offense is so concentrated with the targets. So I was looking at KC the past 2 weeks. They're like top 12 in a lot of like data perspective of like points given up, passing yards over expectation, all of these things. Like Kansas City's defense has flipped where they've been getting had. So with the Jameis Winston-led offense, the targets are going to be there. So I'm actually going to go with Judy. Now, I think you could go Higgins just because Higgins is so good. And he's very exciting. Like, I think those are the two guys that stand out to me. With Garrett Wilson, it's been a little bit up or down. I love Jacoby Myers. I just hate his quarterback this week. And Zay Flowers kind of is in and out of the lineup. So I think the top two guys you have there are by far the safest. If you want to go Higgins in kind of a not great matchup, you could do that. Judy has a better matchup. So it's really Higgins or Judy, whichever one you're more confident about. I'm assuming most people just play Higgins, right? Because he's been incredible this year. So you just play Higgins, get the touchdown and go with it. But I think Judy's more the floor play. Higgins is the ceiling.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. But I think he's going to hit that ceiling. I mean, he's been absolutely incredible. Like you said, Joe Burrow has been out of his mind. Joe Burrow would be an MVP conversation if his defense could do any goddamn thing. But he's only won 4 games this season. So that's really what the struggle is for them. But still, you play T. Higgins. This offense scores at a clip. They're definitely a top 5 scoring offense in the league, which is ridiculous to say given their record. But look, you play T. I think Tennessee isn't really going to put up a fight in this one, even against a bad Cincy defense. But especially Pollard is out or limited, like it's going to be rough for them. They don't need to throw the ball; they still will. I'm going with T because they don't care. It's balls to the wall. No. Put 50 on everybody. They don't give a crap.
Yeah, for sure. Like, and they deal a lot of injuries on the back end too. Like that's the other thing with the Titans. It's not the same defense that it was. So yeah, I think Higgins is just the play and just go with it. But yeah, that's a good option to choose from because you have a lot of guys that are going to be top 24s. I think Higgins and Judy are top 12 closer. But yeah, like I like Wilson and Myers as well.
Yep, totally agree. So got cupped on Thursday as well. Recommendations for full PPR. We need 2 wideouts, 2 wide running backs, and a flex. Here we go. So who are we sitting here?
Oh, probably sitting Smith.
Yeah, probably. Definitely.
The Cook Pacheco one, like you got to play HN. Like I don't care. Like you have to play Devon HN. Like he's too good. I will say the whole Cook Pacheco one is a very interesting discussion. I don't know who you prefer between those 2 guys because you got to get a second running back in there. The Cook stuff last week was a little bit worrisome, but like to be real, they're playing Detroit this week, and I do not want to play him. So I probably go with Pacheco and just shoot my shot on that ceiling with Pacheco because I think it's fine against Cleveland, and he might be able to step in that role. This is the 3rd week back. I think he kind of gets in that role. So I would go Pacheco. And wide receivers, I'm just going to go Thielen and Neighbors. Like I know Neighbors has been super disappointing as far as the second half of the season goes. It's all there. All the data points tell us like he's still the most like prioritized wide receiver in the NFL. It's just the offense sucks. So if you want to shoot the ceiling shot with Devonta Smith like he kind of did last week, you can. I think Thielen's really safe this week, and I think Neighbors are safer. So it really depends if you want to shoot the ceiling, and you might because you put up a cup on Thursday. So if you need the points, you could chase it with Devonta Smith. But I think Thielen's going to give you a good amount. Like, and then Smith is like the 3rd guy that's like, you know what? Go for it if you want to because he's a really good wide receiver. It's just sometimes he just gets bagels because he gets scripted out, right? And that's the issue with him.
So totally agree with all those points, but now we have to pick a flex, Jesse. Is it Cook or Smith? I have Cook way higher than Devonta Smith this week.
It's a hell of a lot safer with Cook because you know he's going to see volume. But I do not want to play him against Detroit, and that's my bigger issue.
Yeah.
Like, Detroit just not giving up to running backs, right? Like, Ken Walker's the one guy that really got there. Most running backs do not. So I think Cook could kind of be an afterthought in this game. So I would probably go – like, I have a hard time seeing the stealing from Cook in this game. So if you need those points, I'm going to shoot the shot with Smith. Even against Pittsburgh, I'll take the shot and go with it. But, yeah, if you want the floor, it's Cook. But it's not great, man. It's not great this week. I love Cook, but I do not want to play him this week.
Agree with that. If you are projected down bad, and like you said, some of these guys are floor, like Pacheco is probably a floor play this week. Neighbors has been a floor play for the last 2 months because he's there on volume. Your ceiling guys are Achane and Thielen in this game because you're hoping Thielen gets in the end zone once, if not twice, which is certainly possible. But yeah, Devonta Smith is the ceiling. But if you need a stable floor, you want 10 points, I think James Cook can get you there. So good luck with that one. We see some new names in the chat, so we appreciate you for joining us. If you are new to the channel, we are the Fantasy Football Universe, the FFU. We are available on YouTube. We're on X. Jesse was in the Reddit streets this week doing an AMA. We're all over the social platforms. Anywhere you are, you can find us. But we do our business on YouTube. So if you like this content, please like and subscribe our video. And to get notifications, we're live 4 times a week. We put out daily content, etc., etc. Back to the questions. But thanks for listening to the rant. Michael Lewis says, Darnell Mooney, Zay Flowers, Christian Watson, Josh Downs, pick 2 PPR.
So you might think Downs is a bad matchup this week against Denver. I don't think it's a bad matchup necessarily because he's the slot wide receiver. They're missing Riley Moss, who's going to be out, who's one of their outside corners. So they're probably going to have to shift coverage a little bit to focus on Pittman. I don't mind Downs. I think Mooney is the better play. I would actually, the way I'll have these guys is Mooney, Flowers, and then Downs. But I think Downs gives you a little bit more upside. With Mooney in that offense, you kind of know what you're getting. He's just really, really good play. So I would go to the top 2 guys, but Downs is right behind them. The one guy I don't want to play is Christian Watson. Terrifies the crap out of me. Even though he could give you that boom game, I don't want to do it. So It's clearly between those three guys for me. Jeremy, which way are you leaning between these three? Because I have them close, but Mooney and Flowers, I have like a couple, like 10 spots above Downs.
Surprisingly, I have Mooney below Flowers, just a few spots. Both of these guys are wide receiver twos. Christian Watson, I just can't trust him. I get it, but Romeo Dobbs is back. Sorry if you said that. So look, when you have the full complement of weapons, I just can't trust Christian Watson. He could get there. And like you said, it's between downs. Totally agree with you. Shifting coverage. We all remember the Jerry Jeudy boom game 2 weeks ago. That was because Riley Moss was out and some guy named something Wallace was out there on outside corner on an island. And they absolutely destroyed. Jameis Winston absolutely destroyed Levi Wallace. So certainly Downs is interesting. They will absolutely have to shift coverage, but how did they do that? Jaquan McMillian can absolutely handle Downs, most of Downs in the slot there. So I'm still going to go Mooney and Flowers, but I agree Downs is an interesting case here. But yeah, Mooney and Flowers should keep you in the money. Evans or Gibbs at the flex, or take Lamb out for Evans. We just talked about Lamb and Evans. They're super close. So, but Jesse, we'd have to play Gibbs, right?
Yes, you have to play Gibbs. Like, it's also a ceiling shot with Gibbs as it is with Evans, right? The floor is really, like, they score so many touchdowns on offense. Like, Gibbs and Montgomery get there on like a weekly basis. And this is why Gibbs is top 10 running back. Montgomery's like top 12-ish. They're just both fantastic, and they're going to see the volume. So in the matchup against Buffalo, their defense has been gouging points to running backs the entire season. I'm firing up Gibbs. It's safer, but there's also a really high ceiling with him. So I feel a little bit more secure than I do with Gibbs than I do Evans. So yeah, I'm playing Gibbs.
Yep, totally agree. And we just talked about Lamb and Evans, so we're going to go Lamb, correct? Yeah. Agree. I hate that. I hate benching Evans. It is what it is. Opponent has Najee.
Congrats to you.
Great. And Njoku is out. I don't think it's official. Of course, he's going to try to play, but yes, we think he's going to be out. Noah Gray or JT Sanders. I'm shooting the upside shot on the rookie. Noah Gray is a floor play where you hope he scores. Sanders, it's a rough one. Who do you prefer?
I'd actually go for Akins if you're going for a tight end. I would take the guy taking Njoku's role if he's out. Like, that's the one I prefer. But yeah, between those two guys, give me Jatavian Sanders. I think there is more upside than, like, Gray just doesn't run enough routes. Like, he's involved. He's on the field like 50 to 60% of times. It's more floor. He really needs the touchdowns the way it works out. And Sanders, like, you've seen him get some decent targets in the past. I think he can get there. It's been kind of a split, though, with Tremble. And that's what worries me a little bit. With Njoku out, Akins, like, he's already running a decent route. He's going to run a ton of routes in this game. And they're going to pass it a ton. So I would just go Akins and kind of swap him in there. Like, I'll have him ranked above both Gray and Sanders.
Yep. Hard to argue with that logic. If I am picking one of these, I am going to pick Sanders. However, just double checking some stats here. Adam Thielen did not come back since the bye that the Panthers had in week 11. JT Sanders' big blow-up games all happened before the bye. After the bye, certainly he got injured. Look, he was well on his way in Thielen's first game, and then he fell on the top of his head, injured his neck. It was bad. He's probably not 100% yet.
It's tough with
I
Sanders.
still want play Akins. Noah Gray, just not involved enough. Not declared, most likely going to be out. That is Njoku. We agree. Albert says half PPR pick 2 DJM Jerry Jeudy Darnell Mooney. Holy yes.
Yeah. You got to start Jeudy. Like, I'm gonna say, like, you got to start Jeudy. Like, he's the guy that needs to be on there. The target consolidation works so much in his favor. And then Moore and Mooney, it's kind of similar, right? Like, they get Minnesota this week. That's tough. They give up a ton of yards, though. That's the thing, right? So I'll have him higher. Like, the Vikings defense is good, but, like, they give up basically the most yards to receivers in the NFL just because teams do not run against them. And that's how this game's likely going to go out, right? So, yeah, I'll have more ranked above Mooney, but I like both of those guys. I kind of want to do it. It's half PPR, so I don't think we're going to see 14 targets, whatever we saw from DJ Moore last week. I think he will be involved, though. The offense knows he's one of the better wide receivers. Just him and Rome Madoons, they feature in both matches. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I love it. One thing to consider, too, is that Minnesota hasn't been really right with Stephon Gilmore being out.
Mhm.
He's not practicing this week, so it's possible that he's out in this game. So you just kind of got to monitor and see what's going on here. All of that said, yeah, I want Judy. I want Mooney. More for me is I can't do it. I can't do it with Caleb. It's really hard. I'm gonna say DJ Moore.
Okay.
Gabriel. Don't know what this is in reference to. Oh, here we go. We got the question in here. Lineup: Burrow, Cup, CD, Chase, Brown, Jacobs, Bowers, Dicker, Denver. So do we think you're going to win? Is the question. Josh Allen, yikes. And Najee. Rashad is going to be tough. I think he gets the workload again, but Pitts.
I think your lineup significantly is better. Like, if you go down the list of guys, like he obviously, well, you have Burrow, Allen's close enough, right? Wilson, Higgins, like they've been good. Yeah, like Najee, I'm not super excited about. Rachaad White, now you want Bucky back because if he's out, Rachaad White's going to see a ton of work. That's the scary thing, but like, yeah, if he's starting Pitts, that's a gift to you. Like you thank him for that one. So yeah, Myers, Boswell, and Jacoby Myers. Like, hey, it's fine. Yeah. I'll take your team, but yeah,
agree.
I like it. I'll go with you.
I will take your team too, but Allen, Garrett Wilson, T. Higgins, and Rachaad White scare me specifically this week. Hopefully you can make up for that with Burrow. Just pray he doesn't throw 4 touchdowns to T. Higgins, I guess.
Yeah, all right. That could kill you. Yeah.
All right. We appreciate you outside upside. Good luck this week. Very deep 14 teamer. Start 12 plus a heavy tight end premium. Who are we starting here? Pick 2. MVS, Stone Smart, Grant Calcaterra, Bellinger, or Sterling Shepard.
It's probably Calcaterra. Now I will say Smart has a really, really good matchup, and that's the thing that in tight end premium, Smart's not really a target earner, so it's going to shift it a little bit to Calcaterra for me. But I think Smart is just the safer play. MVS, I don't want to do it with Jake Haener. I do not want to do it. It sounds terrifying. If he had Derek Carr, I would say MVS just because you can take the shot. But yeah, I have Smart significantly above Calcaterra this week. The tight end premium brings it a little bit closer because I expect him to get more targets. But Smart's going to be around the end zone guy because Disley's out. So I have Smart above him, and I will go with that because it is a really, really good matchup. And Justin Herbert's quarterback, too, on top of it. So if Smart's open, Herbert's going to find him. It's not going to be a quarterback issue. So yeah, I'll go Smart over Calcaterra. Who do you have?
Yep. So you got Smart and who else?
Oh, I would say Smart, and then I'm not going to play Shepard. I don't really want to do that. And then Bellinger, I know he's seen targets. I just have a hard time trusting him against that Baltimore defense. Like so he's not really one I'm considering. I would say it's between Smart, Calcaterra, and Shepard and MVS. Those are the 4 I would consider. And I would say Smart and Calcaterra with a premium. That's what I would go with.
And I agree with you on MVS. I cannot play him absent Derek Carr. I know he's pretty much the only game in town, him and Juwan Johnson, but I think it looks like they're going to try to lean on their 2 backs and figure out a way to do this. But Sterling Shepard is actually the guy I'm going to play next to Stone Smart. Calcaterra, I just do not love the matchup. I get it, but it's either going to be him or Devonta Smith. We've seen this with the Eagles all season long. It might be neither of them. It might just be the Saquon to Jalen Hurts show once again. So I'm going to go Smart and Shepard. Shepard in his last 3 weeks, 7, 7, and 6 targets. I will bank those targets, especially in a very deep league at wide receiver, because, I'm not doing it with Bellinger, and Calcaterra is just hit or miss. Shepard, I think, has a nice floor for you this week.
Yeah, I think he's definitely worth the floor play for sure.
Hawk over Otten, I'm a big yes there. How about you?
It's close, I will say. I have it where they're kind of back-to-back in my rankings. But yeah, like I trust Hawkinson to be good. He's kind of ramping up and being the guy they expected last year. I'm fine with going with that. I think he's good. I don't know. Oh, Elijah Moore. Or Reed or Coleman. The joke is questionable. I mean, Elijah Moore's good. The Coleman stuff, he's coming back for injury. He's not Stephen Harvey. And Reed's just been all over the place. So I would just go for the guy going up against KC, Elijah Moore. I'm taking that, and I would roll with that. If your decision is those 3 wide receivers and then Njoku's out, then I would go Elijah Moore. I'll have him the highest ranked.
Yeah, it's so hard with Jaden Reed too because, he put up the goose egg last week without Romeo Doubs. Romeo Doubs expected back. They have their full complement. Jordan Love's been terrible. Josh Jacobs has been phenomenal. It is what it is. You got to go Elijah Moore. I hate that. I hate it. Anyway, Yeah, I love him.
Yeah.
I don't. T. Higgins and the Bengals offense has no chill. If we know anything, hopefully you have Bengals. At least you got Burrow on the other side, Gabriel. What else can we say? Shepard is questionable. Let's monitor that.
Yeah. I mean, I think
see.
they're expecting him to play from everything I've heard.
Yeah.
But yeah, like pay attention to that one. Like you'll get information on it tomorrow. So if he's out, then yeah. But he's been really good to your point since the bye. Like he's expected points per game, I think is 11, which is not bad.
Yep.
Like that's a pretty good role for a slot wide receiver, right? So you could do it with Shepard. I think it's hard for him to hit the ceiling, like with his role, and just he's not the guy he used to be, unfortunately.
Yeah, did get in a limited practice yesterday, and the Tampa Bay really wants him to play to try and beat the Chargers in LA. So he's going to give it a go. But yeah, obviously if he doesn't play, we don't play. What are you going to do? Let's see. Rye says Otten or Andrews. That's a more interesting one. I think I'm team Andrews. Yep, I'm Andrews over Otten this week. How about you?
They're like back to back. Yeah, like you could go Mark Andrews. Like you kind of convinced me with the missing players of the Giants. Like the matchup seems brutal, but I think Andrews is actually a really good play this week. Even though the Giants seem like they're a disaster to target, I think Andrews can get there and have a good game for them. So yeah, I'm fine with Andrews this week.
Yeah.
But they're literally back to back in my ranking. So it's coin flip status.
Yep. This is the issue with Otten for me since the bye, which means since Mike Evans has returned to the lineup, 3, 7, and 4 targets for Cade Otten. He with the 7 targets, he didn't get there. He got, caught 3 for 70 yards last week. I don't think we can rely on that ridiculous 17.5 yards per, 23 yards per reception from Otten weekly. And he was just the tight end 10 because he didn't score a touchdown and didn't catch much against a much stingier Chargers unit. That's my issue. I'm going to play Andrews there. Are we worried the Ravens are going to crush the Giants into oblivion and there won't be a reason to pass? Yes, we're worried about that. I'm still starting Mark Andrews. If Njoku plays, are you playing him?
Yes. It's fantastic. Like Njoku's a must play if he plays. Like you have to play Njoku. Everything's shaping up for him this week, but just get on the field, dude. Get on the field.
Tight end, if you can see my fingers, tight end 4 this week for me. Jesse's probably got him even higher.
Stupid high. Yeah, we'll just say stupid high. Points per carry. It depends how much.
Oh, so this is, hang on, I'm going to pull it up. Oh, this was with facing Rashad White, but he's rolling with Jacobs and Chase Brown. So we're okay.
You're fine. You're fine. You're going to see a lot of touches. You're going to see a lot of touches.
Let's go. Fingers crossed for you, man. I get it. It's that crucial first real week of the fantasy season. Tyler also says he hasn't had a good games with Evan playing. That's the one. It's hard, man. I'm going against Otten. He is my tight end 13 on the week. So I don't hate him. I don't love him. Rye says dynasty trade in a 12 team with a significant, insane tight end premium. Saquon Barkley and a 25 early second. For a very early 25 first. Are you giving up your early first to get Barkley in the second to go and win a ship?
My question to you is how much of an upgrade is Barkley over your lineup? Because that's the biggest thing. When you're paying a massive premium, the 102 here, like that is significant cost. So you have to do some analysis on what is the opportunity cost you're giving up. Instead of the 102, can I go get cheaper production? Like, can I get the Rashad White if I need it for cheaper, right? You go get these guys that aren't going to cost you an arm and a leg. Now, Barkley's going to smash. Everyone expects Barkley to smash. But you can get similar production for a hell of a lot cheaper than that. So, and we're also at this point in the season is almost over. So we're paying for the past production of Barkley. And we don't know how it's going to go next year. It should be similar. But, like, I have a hard time paying the 102 for any running back, particularly an running back as old as Barkley. So, I would look elsewhere because you guys are in the playoffs, so you're doing playoff trades, which means you could play this out through every team that's out of the playoffs or out of contention. Go find the best deal and just smash offers to like the entire league. Find guys that can give you similar production. Like, can you get Jacobs for it too? You know what I mean? Can you like find production that's a hell of a lot cheaper? Because it's a pretty good, like it's a solid deal, but I just do not want to give up the 102 because you're the contender. You kind of control like this. I'm assuming the rebuilding team wants to get rid of Barkley, right? Like that's kind of what this looks like to me. So I would personally not do this deal, or I would try to make it a little bit sweeter because they're already giving you a second on top of it, right? So they're clearly trying to get that 102. I'm almost guaranteed they're rebuilding. That's what this looks like. So
yeah,
I would not do it personally, but I think you could find other ways to get similar production if you want to go about doing that. And tight end premium too. Like you could do that.
Also, Pittsburgh this week, Washington next. That's not a great matchup. It does have Dallas in the fantasy championship, so
that's money.
Saquon will absolutely go nuclear for you. If your trade deadline hasn't passed, chances are your trade deadline will not pass in 2 weeks. Just go get Saquon for a little bit cheaper ahead of the fantasy championship is probably how I do it. You probably don't need to make this deal right now, but hey, who knows? You got to win. And like Jesse said, I don't hate the deal. But I'm not in love either. So, Jesse, if Njoku plays, would you play Jaden Reed over Elijah Moore, or are you still counting on Jameis to slang it 50 times in this one? Yeah.
Jameis. Yeah. Like, I like Reed, but like second half of the year, he's been all over the place. And it's just not a centralized part of the passing attack where he's just, like we saw against Detroit, he was a non-factor in that game. Like, he did nothing for you. So, as much as we like Jaden Reed, I know Matt Harmon's been preaching from the rafters, like, get this dude some fucking targets. I don't know when it's going to happen. So, I think Elijah Moore is just a much better play this week until we see it consistently with Reed. Like, his role is it's decreased, and that sucks, but it kind of is what it is, right? And Elijah Moore got the Jameis Winston landing spot where it's like, oh, hey, guess what? It's wheels up the rest of the season. So, they're close to the rankings, but I just feel much better about Moore, and I'm going to keep rolling that out. And a good matchup this week, too.
Just some perspective, because both teams had a week 10 bye. Jordan Love's attempts per game in these last 4 games, 17, 23, 28, 20. That's roughly 23 attempts per game. Jameis Winston in the same span, 46, 27, 58, 41. That's close to damn near double. It's not double, but it's damn near close. It's probably about 40 times a game that he's slinging it versus Jordan Love in the low 20s. So, no, I'm going to go with Jameis and his, de facto number 2 target. Even if Njoku's there, Elijah Moore has out-targeted Njoku here and there over the last month or so, last 6 weeks. So, give me Elijah Moore for sure. Agree.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. Cup stressed us all out. But Jesse and I were talking. We were thankful. I think all of our Cups bags are on teams with a bye. Sometimes you get lucky in fantasy. That's all it's about.
Hey.
If you're dealing with that 0, we get it. You just got to make sure that you're putting out the best team. But no, it looks like you should have that chance, Gabriel. So good.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time since 2019 he's put up a 0. Like, this is just sometimes you get unfortunate with games, man. This is 5 years of data, and like we get it finally. So you know what? I guess Cup was due for a bagel, just the worst time to do it. So it's unfortunately. Oh goodness, man, too bad. It's too bad.
Here's what I'm going to say about this next question. Just no. What line of demarcation? Absolutely not. I know Roshan is out. I know Khalil Herbert has been jettisoned. I don't even know who the other backs are in this roster. It's if DeAndre Swift is out there and healthy, it's the DeAndre Swift show, essentially.
Yes.
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it against Minnesota. No, thank you.
It's really tough for him this week. This is why I'm trying to pivot away. I will say there are a lot of quality running backs you can get who have really, for instance, I'll just make the case for David Montgomery. They have really juicy matchups the next 3 weeks. He's a hell of a lot cheaper than paying first. You can get he's more than likely on a contender, but you find guys like that who are going to have positive game trips or really good offenses. The issue for Swift, not going to be a positive game trip, and they're not a really good offense. So his floor is lower, even though he's going to see a ton of work. Obviously, go check the cost on Chase Brown because he gets all of the work in the world. You don't have to pay a first for Chase Brown. Is the thing. Teams want a first, but I've seen him go for less. He's on that fringe. Maybe you have some guys that are on your bench. You can package it. You can find these guys to give you cheaper. And with Swift, with this run out this week, it's just hard pass. No, thank you. I do not want to do it. So I'm just not going to do it. And it's Detroit next week. And then it's Seattle after that. This is just brutal for DeAndre Swift. So I don't think you start DeAndre Swift the entire playoffs. If he got you there, congrats. But man, it's really difficult to play him. So for me, he's outside the top 24. I think you could find guys in that range or price range if you want to go talk to Pacheco coach, or the Pacheco manager, see the cost on him because he's slowly coming back. I will say you could do McCormack for dirt cheap if you want to go that way. There's guys that are significantly less expensive, and I would much rather start McCormack over Swift. I would just do that. And Like, you know what I mean? So I think you could make it work. Yeah. And like he asked the question about McCormack. Depends what you can get. It's really hard to sell him for much of anything. So he's like strictly a certified contender buy. And you could get him for really, really cheap. Tracy has a down bad matchup this week. Right? Yeah. It's really tough. The one thing is the project he can get there receiving wise, but like that offense is projected for like 13 points or something just absurd. Like it's so bad. I have a hard time starting Tracy. So like Sincere McCormack, yeah. I mean, if you could get a second, you probably take it for him, but I don't think anyone's really going to give you that. I think you could flip, like you could send like a young, like if you like a Keon Coleman type, you could get him for that because Keon Coleman has not been that good this year. Like that type of, you know what I mean? So you don't have to spend a second. I think you can make it work where if you want to buy McCormack on a contender, he's the perfect buy because he's as cheap as it gets at running back, and he's going to give you production the next 3 weeks in good, like we talked about, top 12 matchups the next 3 weeks. So I'm fine buying him, and on the flip side, if I'm on a rebuilding team, I'm getting whatever I can for him because Pierce likely is not the coach next year, which means there's no connection to him. He's a UDFA. They're going to bring someone else in. It's just how it goes. So yeah, contender buy, rebuild, get him the hell off your roster for whatever you can get.
I get it. Maybe if I have an extra second or two laying around, I make this move, but I don't really want Sincere McCormack on my contenders. Yeah. If I already have him, fine, because I got him for cheap. But if I have to go out and spend a second, I'm going to go out and look to see if somebody will take a second for an injured Bucky Irving right now. I'm going to go out and, buy
second plus
for an injured Tony Pollard right now. If I send a second, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, Bucky's a bit of a different story, I guess. But that's my concern. Sincere McCormack's volume has been good. It hasn't translated to good fantasy outings. RB 35 and 25 in his 2 starts. That's in half PPR, despite 14 and 18 touches in those games. He's getting in the receiving game too. He just hasn't scored. And now his quarterback is Desmond Ridder. It worries me that this offense won't be able to move the football. So that's why I'm not going out and buying him. That said, I do have him ranked over Tyrone Tracy because of the matchup this week.
It's very similar to Rico Dowdle. Like there's no difference really between those two guys. Just whichever one's cheaper, go get those guys.
Fair. Before we jump into these questions, let me just quickly, just for the sake of how we started the show, let's talk about CeeDee Lamb. Do you have any reservations about CeeDee Lamb, especially with a juicy playoff schedule coming in? Carolina this week, but then Tampa and then Philly, who did give it up to Adam Thielen. So it's possible that CeeDee Lamb can get there every single week, but especially the next 2. Are we loving CeeDee Lamb regardless?
Yeah. Like I know the last 2 weeks he's seen 6 and 7 targets. It's fine. Like he got there against Cincinnati because he went nuclear on those 7 targets. He did not get there against the Giants, which that was a Thanksgiving game. He basically sat out that game. It was really weird because he's dealing with an injury, right? But he's off the injury report. He doesn't have the shoulder injury anymore. So if you don't count the Giants game, it's 17, 12, 10, 12, 12, 7 targets, like after the bye. So I think the Giants game was an outlier and kind of one where everybody's like, what's going on? But outside of that, like you got to fire up CeeDee Lamb, man. He's their entire offense. Now, Jake Ferguson's a good play this week too because Jake Ferguson's back. But like CeeDee Lamb is the guy in that offense. He's going to be heavily fed. It's Carolina, man. Like Lamb could put up 15 for 150 against them, no problem. Like I think that's his range of outcomes.
Totally agree. Last wide receiver question, and then we'll wrap up some of these questions here. The Miami Dolphins have one of the best strengths of schedule remaining at Houston against a down bad San Francisco team, against a down worse Cleveland Browns team to wrap it up. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, are we firing both of these guys up with confidence rest of season with the way Tua has been balling?
Yeah, the Waddle stuff, so I'm a little bit more not on the Waddle train, but like he's seeing more targets. Like he's being more heavily involved. It's just more up and down, right? If we go back to like say the week 12 New England game where he got the 9 targets, it's 9 targets, then it's 4, back up to 12, and that's kind of game script. With Waddle, I'm not as sold as I am with Tyreek, just because Tyreek is still the centralized, as long as the wide receivers go. It kind of came at Johnny's expense last week. So that's what I want to see moving forward. If Waddle can kind of step forward into that second chair option. If he's that second chair, then heck yeah. I think you could play him for sure. But he's more of a flex than like a must-start wide receiver too.
Yeah. Agree with you there. Professional segues only. Aaron says, what is up, sir? Tua or Goff this week? I want it. My heart says Tua. Does your mind say Goff, or what are we doing here?
So Buffalo, it's a little bit easier for the running back production in general. So I think it's more going to be the running backs that have like the good game against them.
Yes.
I have Tua a few spots above Goff this week, which is weird to say. Like, it's like, oh, we're back in on Tua. Yeah, the weird thing about that offense is they're the worst rushing attack of the NFL, the best passing attack of the NFL. So what are they going to do? They're just going to keep slaying the rock because that offense line's a disaster. They cannot run. Devon Achane is an inefficient running back this season. Don't get me started on that. I don't know why it's happening, but that's a long-winded way of saying, I'm playing Tua over Goff this week.
Yeah, we've gone over this last week, but Tua over the last month, QB 10, 3, 7, and 5 in standard scoring. He has thrown over that span, quick math, 11 touchdowns. Yes, that's correct. And 0 interceptions. Tua has been balling. Houston is no match, especially with Jalen Petrie out in that secondary. They're in trouble against this Miami defense, and I think they're going to absolutely go nuclear. You play Tua. A defensive question. Got to check the ranks here for Mr. Magic. Next week on a bye right now. So who's he picking up for week 16? The Falcons versus the Giants or the Colts versus the Titans? I'm going to go Falcons because that pass rush and Caden Ellis have been getting home. The Colts defense, I don't trust them.
Yeah, like if it's DeVito or if it's Locke or whoever it is, like that quarterback is worse than Will Levis, which tells you how bad those quarterbacks are. So I'm going to chase the teams playing the Giants just because there's I know Will Levis has turned it over. He's kind of cut down on the turnovers a little bit. Like he's still got the generational memes, but the turnovers are not the same way as they will. So I'm with you. I'm going Falcons D as well. It seems like they've kind of turned a corner and are actually getting pressure on the quarterback. So if they can continue to do that, should be a rough day for the Giants.
Yep, I'm totally counting on that. Indy's D hasn't been as bad as I thought, and they do control the clock, which is nice. But I'm still going to go Falcons and shoot for upside because both of those offenses there that those teams are playing are terrible. We unpacked this already. Aaron also says Knicks or A-Rich. I think it's got to be Bo Nix, right?
I'm getting real tempted with Anthony Richardson with the loss of Riley Moss. Like I am getting real tempted. It's close. I've moved Anthony Richardson to 11. Knicks is 10. They're right there. I think both are kind of a similar bet. Knicks has just been a much more steady hand this season as far as fantasy production. So I think Knicks is the safer play. If you really if you're chasing a lot in this game, just shoot the ceiling shot with Richardson and let it fly. Because I think it's a likely scenario that both of them could hit their ceiling. So, I'll take Knicks slightly over Richardson. I think it's safe.
That's a really good point. I also moved Anthony Richardson up from QB 23 to QB 21. Bo Nix is QB 8 this week. Bo Nix is going off. Cortland Sutton, wide receiver 1 in our hearts. We got to start Bo Nix, Aaron, for me. Let's see. Flex play 14-0. Sold Reed for Thielen.
Why?
Listen. If you
I get it.
Jaden Reed long-term for sure. Adam Thielen will outscore Jaden Reed rest of the way, at least consistently. You just don't know when the Jaden Reed games are going to come. Are you insane? Yes. Will you be a more productive fantasy team this season? Also, yes.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like there needs to be some capital coming back on the other end, but I understand the thought process behind it. Like Aaron is what we call a YOLO manager. He does not care what the market says, so he's going to do what he likes. And if he likes the deal, this is what I say with deals all the time. If you like the deal, you're happy with it, make the freaking deal. Like, I don't care what other people think. You know what I'm saying? If people don't like it, that's too bad. It's your team. As long as you don't completely take your team of all picks and you have no movable assets, you're fine. And a lot of people still have that. So, yeah, I get it. It doesn't look great on the surface, but I understand the thought process behind it.
Marky219 says, do I pick up Zach Charbonnet, Rashad White, Tyrone Tracy, Adam Thielen, or BTJ over Pittman? Yeah, drop Pittman immediately.
What is going
on? Who's Seattle playing again?
Green Bay.
Rashad White has a juicy one, doesn't he?
Well, we don't know if Bucky's playing. So Charbonnet is my highest ranked because Walker is not playing this week. So if Rashad White gets the no Bucky run out, then I'll push him above. But Charbonnet is top 8 running back this week for me. I'm all aboard the Charbonnet train just because so much volume is going to him, man. But what league is this? How are all these guys available? Rashad White's well rostered. Tyrone Tracy's at 80%. Thielen's at 6. I don't know what league this is, but this is nuts. That even and in BTJ, like what the hell? I don't know. This is like a 2-man league or something. This is crazy to me. I don't know how this works, but yes, pick all these guys up, put them on your bench, and roll with it. And no, I'm not starting Addison over Devontae Adams. Adams and Connor, I want to definitely play. Like I want both those guys in my lineup for sure. So like those are guys that need to be in your lineups because they're going to be really good. Connor's going to be in volumes, just a ton of work this week. So yeah, that's where I'd be at.
Yep. And I am fading the crap out of Jordan Addison as well this week. Simply because, and Matt Harmon you mentioned Matt Harmon earlier. He was talking about the fact that TJ Hawkinson is their man beater. Jordan Addison is their zone beater. Chicago, at least traditionally this season, has played more man because their secondary demanded it because those guys are good back there. The problem is they've had a lot of injuries, so I'm not exactly sure what they're going to roll with, but I would expect they keep with their scheme. And so this should lend itself to a TJ Hawkinson over Jordan Addison game. We don't know. We will see. Addison's been awesome and been getting a ton of looks, but at least that's something to consider. Am I playing him over those two guys anyway? No, I am sitting Jordan.
You see the comment down below. It's an 8-team league. That's why.
Oh,
that makes sense because like 8-team leagues, every team's so stacked that makes sense. Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
We are going to answer Scott's question, and then we will wrap up our tight ends with the best and worst schedules, and then finish up our questions and get out of here as soon as possible. Scott, what is up? Scott says Tucker Kraft or K-Dot, and it's got to be Tucker, even with all those mouths back in for the pack. What are you thinking?
I'm going Otten, but you can go Kraft. So I have Otten a few spots above Kraft. Kraft doesn't run enough routes is the problem with Kraft. Like his role's solid, but he falls into that kind of like Andrews range. It's just Andrews has been a lot more productive and the offense is a little bit better. So yeah, I have Otten above him, but you could definitely go Kraft if you're bullish on it. Like it's not too much of a difference.
I moved Kraft down just now. He's still 2 spots over Otten. The problem will be Ernest Jones and how they deploy that coverage of Kraft and against the rest of the guys with their linebackers and safeties. That is concerning, but K. Otten still has to deal with the Chargers. So I will go Kraft there. Let's quickly talk about TJ Hawkinson. The aforementioned TJ Hawkinson has one of the best tight end schedules coming up. If I can bring it up, of course, technology is always my foil in these live shows. Here we go. We got Chicago. We got Chicago, those Seattle Seahawks, and Green Bay. Fantasy Pro says this is a good schedule. I don't love this schedule. How do you feel about TJ Hawkinson the rest of the season?
It's fine. I kind of want to see a little bit more from Hawkinson. Just the thing that we're still waiting on is him to fully get what he was doing last year when he was running a ton of routes, right? Like he's still only at like 62% of snaps. We need him in the 80s. Like we need him to get there. I don't know if they trust him, but I want to find out. Like I'm willing to start him and find out, right? He's going to be top 12-ish tight end, even in like a partial role, not all the way. So yeah, he's a good player. He's got a good matchups. I know it doesn't seem good on the surface, but the data tells us it's fine. You could definitely start him and play him, and hopefully he sees like 9 targets like he did a few weeks ago.
They're still rolling out Josh Oliver and something named Johnny Munt regularly in that offense. I assume, it's a blocking situation for sure. It doesn't matter. They can't run the ball. Aaron Jones just puts it on the damn ground every 3 carries. So it's just a mess. But yeah, you got to hope that TJ Hawkinson sees more work for sure. The last thing that we will say is George Kittle apparently has a horrific schedule for tight ends. The problem is this team sucks. And George Kittle is like the only consistent thing about this team, but they just played their week 15 matchup. He smashed for you. Only 4 receptions, but 61 yards. You'd love to see that from a tight end. Miami and then Detroit. Supposed to be terrible. Are you worried at all about George Kittle?
I mean, yeah, I'll fade him a few spots, but like it's George Kittle. He's the best tight end in the NFL. So yeah, like I really don't have much. As long as he's healthy, it's always the injuries that creep up on him. So as long as he's healthy, it's fine. Yeah. But yeah, it sucks. We just gotta lower him a little bit. Yeah, it's a roller coaster.
Love it. Love it. The Johnny Munt experience, whatever that is. Okay, so we are done with our discussion of guys. We have your questions. We are going to run rapid fire through the rest of them because we are well over an hour and it's time for us to get out of here.
Shocking.
So if you posted a question, we haven't answered it, paid attention. We're going to wrap this show in about 7 minutes, Jesse. We're on the clock. Peter says, T. Higgins, JSN. I assume that's Lad. Yeah, Lad or James Cook, the last slot, half PPR. You going
T.
You going JSN, you going Lad.
T. All day, T.
If Lad was for sure playing and you knew that, would you go Lad over T?
No. It's because, like, especially in half PPR, like, Lad's more of the PPR guy on top of it, too. But, like, even in full PPR, I'm not going to rank Lad over T. Higgins. Like, T's so good this year. Like, T's doing everything he can. As long as he's healthy, man. Like, I think JSN and Lad's a similar discussion, but, like, they're a tier below T. Higgins for me, for sure.
Lad is my wide receiver 17, T. Higgins 14, JSN lower. So, yeah, I also agree. Even though I don't agree, I agree. Trone says, currently have the Colts for week 16 and 17. This is the Colts D. Would you drop them for the Lions against the Bears? Pick up the Eagles against the yes.
Week 17, yeah, pick up the Eagles defense versus the Cowboys. That is going to be a bloodbath. Yeah, that one. The week 16 matchup against the Bears, we just saw all these teams play, and the Bears were really, really good in that game against the Lions. It's hard to trust the Bears to repeat that success, right? Because they're just all over the place. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't looked at who the Colts are playing. I'm blanking on who it is in week 16, but I would say it's TBD. Let me stall for
Titans,
a second. So I can answer that.
Titans.
Yeah, no, I'll just. They're going to be so close to rankings. I already know how this is going to go. I'll say just hold them for now. Do you have a preference on these, Jeremy?
No, I think because of the Titans matchup, I agree that I would hold them and prefer to play them over the Lions against the Bears, but I do not mind the Lions against the Bears.
Yeah.
Yeah, take your pick, but yeah, absolutely get those Eagles for week 17 for sure. Nobody likes a quitter like Patrick Surtain. I don't know. Patrick Surtain is his dad's a Hall of Famer. His dad's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, and he's on his way to copying his dad. Yeah.
I mean, he is. He's damn good. He's damn good. Packers D versus Saints or Falcons D. Packers D.
Yeah, you're playing the Saints with Jake who? Jake Hader. Yeah, dude. Like it's
who now?
Yeah, it's rough, my friend. Yeah, it's there's some really good some good matchups this week. Like if you get Baltimore, you get those guys. Like yeah, that's next week, obviously, but
that's next week. Yeah,
I'll take Packers. Yeah.
Agreed.
Packers.
Agree. Got to start Judy, Sutton, and Thielen. Oh my God. You're starting them all. Good. I'm glad we didn't have to choose from them because I love all three of these options this week. Well done, Scott. You're going to crush those guys. I would be shocked if combined these guys had fewer than 30 targets this week, Jesse.
30 is a lot. That is a lot of targets, but it's reasonable. It was crazy. Like, this is the weird thing about fantasy football. We do all this data. We do all this research going into the season. We're like, oh, screw Thielen. Nobody wants him. Then come playoff time, guys get injured or guys suck, right? And we're like, oh, yeah, give me Adam Thielen. Give me Jerry Judy, the guys that have burned us for years. So that's fantasy football, man. That's how it is. That's why we love this game. There's so much just uncertainty and chaos in it.
Rank these players. I think Mr. Magic already did it.
Yeah, I mean, Keenan's the whole DeAndre Hopkins thing. Like, Hopkins is safe for Devonta's a ceiling play. So, yeah, like I like McCormick's schedule the rest of the season, so I'm going to play him. And then you're just going to mix and match these wide receivers. So, depending on the matchup each week, you put him in play. So, yeah, McCormick has a good schedule, man. Like, it is what it is. Yep. Which, again, case in point, this is fantasy football. We're hyping up freaking McCormick, a guy nobody knew before the season, UDFA out of freaking UTSA. Like, come on. That's how it is.
Yep. Tyler, I would love to explain, but I'm not totally sure what you mean. Explain to you why people like Patrick Surtain because he's a quitter. Just let us know what you mean in the chat.
We're talking about the dude for the other team that just quit. Is that what we're talking about? I don't know. I'm confused too. Is that what we mean? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure the Johnny Month experience. Yeah. Quick answer wise, everyone like a quitter versus the defensive player of the year. So who is playing Denver this week? We can figure this out. We're smart folks.
Well, we are smart folks, but sometimes
who's playing? It's Indy. So are we talking about
who's the quitter on Indy?
Pittman?
Oh, it's not my Anthony Richardson. No, because Richardson tapped out.
We got there.
We're not doing it. I got there.
We got there. I don't. He's my QB 21, so play Bo Nix.
Yeah, Jeremy hates. I'm the Richardson guy. Jeremy hates Richardson.
I really do because I had far too many bags this season. It is what it is. Is Burrow my number one? No, Scott. He's my number two. He's my number two this week.
Huge.
Josh Allen.
Number two. How dare you? It's
Allen.
whatever. It's like automatically fire those guys up. It's whatever. It's not like you have both those guys on your roster anyway. It's
yeah, there's nobody better than Burrow and Chase right now. Do we like the Eagles in week 16? Why don't you look up, Jesse, who they're playing in week 16?
Washington.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fine, but I mean, their offense has gotten worse as the season's gone on, but like you're still playing Jaden Daniels. He could go nuclear against a defense like this just because he's Jaden Daniels in that offense. So it's I like them less than I would in a better matchup against a worse quarterback. Like that's, it's kind of what it is. But their defense is playing very, very well second half season. They're one of their defense in the NFL. So yeah, you still like them.
And here's why you always like the Eagles defense, because they control the clock. As you've talked about plenty, Jesse, they are one of the most run heaviest teams in the league. And that defense we know is much improved, and they play with a lead. So they're constantly got their ears pinned back, rushing the quarterback. Love the Eagles defense almost every week. Didn't work out last week, but hey, sometimes you get weird games like that. Yeah. Hey, Rich. Hey, we figured it out. Are you sincere about? I'm not sincere. No, I'm not sincere anymore about McCormick.
I'm sincerely swooning for McCormack. Let's go.
That's
the best I got.
This sincerely feels like a Cedric Tillman-esque,
it was a good 3 weeks
sort of situation.
It was a good 3 weeks.
But at least he's going to get the volume, but it's Desmond Ridder for me. Why?
We did this last year with Zamir White. Like this is the Zamir White 2.0 experience where Zamir White was winning people championships last year down the stretch.
Yeah, but he played with a functional backup NFL quarterback and not Desmond Ridder.
Yeah, no, I understand. Like there's more risk, but like this led us to being like, oh yeah, Zamir White, top 6th round pick, and I'm like, no, don't do that, folks.
Can't.
So watch, people are gonna hype McCormack off of this.
They will. He's a flex for sure. Do I want to flex him in the fantasy playoffs? No, but you do what you got to do. I do. Yeah, no, this guy does.
Start him.
This guy doesn't.
Tyler, come at me, bro. Come at
me. You do, brother. Listen, Tyler, we appreciate you. No problem, you, Tyler, man. Yeah. Good luck. Good luck to you in your matchup. Our last question for the evening, Jesse, or your afternoon. Over here, it is 10 p.m. in Amsterdam. Do we think Charbonnet is going to roll this out the rest of the season? They need to rest Ken Walker, right?
I mean, yeah, it's weird, the Walker stuff, because they haven't given us the full information on it. And the thing is, like, Holani's on the active roster and stuff. Like, they elevated him. So clearly that tells us Walker's not playing. Like, that's the ideal suggestion, right? But the next 2 weeks, we need to know, like, this injury's lingered on multiple weeks. It could go through the entire season. So if you have not, like, obviously Charbonnet is basically on every potential league. Don't drop him after this week. Just hold Charbonnet and wait and find out, because people will do that. So, yeah, I think he could. And if he gets the run out, man, he stopped over running back. The volume is there each and every week for him. So it's just what it is.
Okay. The problem is Green Bay, Minnesota, Chicago. They're not like super terrible matchups, but they're not great either. Yep. They're also, pretty tough NFC North, defenses. Those guys, they're hardened. The northern divisions are hardened on defense.
Snow.
In both leagues. It's pretty ridiculous. Do I see him playing? I think he's going to play. I think they need to rest Walker. Will Walker be back in that time? Could be. But this team is at the moment leading their division out west. They're going to probably, I think, win the division and get into the playoffs. And if that's the case, you want a healthy Ken Walker, and you want to be rolling both of these guys out in the actual playoffs. So you got to rest Kenneth Walker. I think Charbonnet will be viable rest of the season.
Deepak, what's his name? I just listed. Deepak Chona, one of the sports med analysts, says he's leaning toward expects him to miss week 16. So I'm just kind of going with what they're saying, because I'm not really sure what the full injury is, and they're not giving all the information on it. So we kind of just have to take it for what it is.
Yeah. On that note, thank you for joining us. We appreciate all of the thanks and all of your appreciation. I am Jeremy over here, Shulman. Hashtag Kyler, don't worry a little bit, but not too much. This is Jesse Moeller. Hashtag don't be down on downs. Don't be super down on downs, but maybe a little bit. But that's okay. We are the Fantasy Football Universe. You can find us on YouTube. We're all over the place. If you haven't liked and subscribed us, please do that. We are live 4 times a week. We post daily content. We got another short out today. Who was it on? Oh, my guy, Cortland Sutton, our guy. Cortland Sutton. He's
Yes,
going to smash.
Yes, sir.
If he doesn't,
Big
come
dog.
back and blame me. But he's going to smash anyway. Don't worry about it. Anyway, let's sign off. We're done. It's been far too long. I'm delirious. I need to go to bed. We will see you tomorrow, an hour before game time for Start Sit. Otherwise, thank you for joining us. We will see you then. Listen up.